Welcome to the regular meeting of the Troy City Council for our liquor violation hearings. I will call the meeting to order. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Here.
All present. This evening we have 9 public hearings for liquor violations. There may be a possibility that we will not get through all 9 public hearings at this meeting, and if that happens, we will carry those over to the regular business meeting that starts at 7:30. So first on the agenda, C1A is ANS Babby Inc., DBA John's Party Store. I did open this public hearing at the previous meeting, so that public hearing is still open. And I will call upon Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne. Good evening, Julie.
Good evening, Mayor Slater.
Whoa,
Nope,
how did that, no, I said, whoa, how did that got pointed in the wrong direction there?
I don't know. Thank you, Mayor Slater. Good evening, members of council. Before I begin, I just wanted to acknowledge that this program that we do here in the city of Troy could not happen without the support of Chief Mayor and his dedicated officers on the Directed Patrol Unit, including Sergeant Gobler, who is present here in the audience. In addition, the decoys, I know the last time we were here, there was some question about the decoys, and I wanted to acknowledge that the decoys, they are paid. We do like to keep their identities anonymous because we'd like to be able to use them again. Obviously, we can't use them again at the same locations because our identities have been compromised there, but going forward we would like to be able to use them again. Typically the decoys have been sons and daughters of police officers, not always, but sometimes. So I just wanted to give you an overview of where the decoys have come from in the past. I'd also like to acknowledge Jeff Oberski, who's in the office. Without Jeff, much of what you have in your packet is accumulated and kept by Jeff Oberski. So thanks to Jeff, I'm able to provide you all with a lot of the information that you have. Again, just for the record, I'd like to acknowledge that in your agenda packets, you have already a copy of the violation report, the police report, witness statements, a copy of the citations that were issued in each of these matters, a list of the liquor license histories, and also the MLCC findings or reports if they were made available. You'll notice that some of the information is redacted or blacked out. That again is because all of this information is available on the internet, and some information is personal and private, and we don't want everyone to have access to all of that information. So any of those black marks you see, there's a legal reason that information is kept out. So as you said, Mayor Slater, we're starting with a postponed item. It's ANS Babby Inc. They are doing business as John's Party Store. They are represented today by counsel Joe Shalal, and they also have John Babby, who is here, is the license holder. This sale to minor violation took place on February 20th of last year. The minor decoy entered the store and chose a 6-pack of beer, proceeded to the checkout counter, and was able to complete the sale without having his ID asked for. The cashier in this instance is actually the licensee's mother. She is also present. They did acknowledge the violation. They paid a fine, the civil infraction fine. At the MLCC, they waived their right to a hearing, entered a plea of acknowledgement, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $500. John's Party Store has been licensed here in Troy since 1972. The current licensee has held a license since 1995. They've had 3 previous violations. The last one was in May of 2011. So I will call upon Mr. Shalal and his license representative to come forward.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Joe Shalom. I'm here on behalf of the licensee. Just a couple of points of clarification. It's Sanat Babby is the owner. John is just named after him. The person that actually sold was Adil Babby, the father. And they've been there for a long time and licensed for a long time, and I just wanted to clarify those different inaccuracies. But everything else was correct. Yes, there have been, I think she said, 4 violations in the over 20 years that they've been there. However, there also are 15 what they call controlled buys. Controlled buys are when the police go in and do a decoy operation. I think that 11 or 12 from the city of Troy, that they passed those, and the city sends a letter to Liquor Control Commission, and Liquor Control Commission publishes it on their website, saying that they did pass a control buy, and they've probably passed one a year since 1999 all the way to 2011. And then, for some reason, City of Troy didn't do it anymore, and the Liquor Control Commission started doing it. So in 2011, 13, and 14, we have of the record from Liquor Control Commission that A&S Bedby passed 3 more controlled buys. So they're not being reckless with this license. They respect the laws and the rules and regulations of the City of Troy and the Liquor Control Commission. I have a form here from Liquor Control Commission that came right off their website, and I'll present it to you if you'd like to see, so that you'll know that there are numerous controlled buys that they did pass and were successful in finding that the person was underage. The next thing that we have is that to demonstrate to the city that they are taking this seriously, everybody in the family that works there, that works on the register, became TIPS trained. TIPS training is a special training that you pay for, and you renew it every 4 or 5 years. And basically what it does, it teaches the people what to look for when someone who's underage is coming in and trying to buy alcohol. It teaches you how to look at the person, and more importantly, how to look at the ID, where, it's very simple that a minor's ID is vertical like this instead of horizontal like all of ours is. We're all over 18, right? Over 21. So they did complete TIPS and TAMS training. They took a test, and they passed with flying colors. I also have a letter here from Dan Reeves, this was sent to the city earlier. I don't know if you have it in your files. It was also delivered to Liquor Control Commission to put in their files to demonstrate that they do care about the rules and regulations. The next thing I have is that when you're my client and you've told me that you've had problems, I ask you to create a policy, a written policy regarding alcoholic beverage sales. And so what that policy is basically the employees, or in this instance the family members themselves, they go through a written policy that says, I understand the liquor laws, I know that I should not sell alcohol to people that are under 21. It goes so far as saying that if the person appears less than 30 years old, I will check ID. And it has numerous other things, what could happen to you. You could be found guilty of a misdemeanor or a civil infraction, and it would cost a lot of money to get out of these problems. They have their employees sign that. I didn't bring one that was signed because I'm going to give it to you, and I don't want everybody to know the public information with regards to who their employees are or not. With regards to a continued training, on a once-a-month basis, they have an acknowledgement from everybody. So they have a meeting once a month. Hey, remember, check ID, make sure the person looks 30 years old, sign your name here. And the employees sign their name during that meeting. And, this is how we encourage the employees and the family members to continue to do their jobs the right way. And then finally, they post that your age has to be 19. You have to be born before 1995 to do this. If you'd like, I could give you this for your record.
If you could give it to the city clerk, please. Thank you.
So with that said, I'd ask that you would consider renewing their license. They have considerable controlled buys where they've demonstrated that they do check ID on a random basis.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from council at this point? I think we're good. Could I ask you, when did they do the TIPS training?
I can't remember the exact date. What was that? It was last month sometime.
Last month?
Yes.
Because generally in our resolutions, as part of our resolution is to have TIPS training, but are you telling me it's been in the last 30 days?
Oh, yes. It has been in the last.
It was prior to the last 30 days.
What's that?
It was prior to the last 30 days, so the January timeframe, so January, February timeframe.
We may ask for them to do that again and then provide that to the police department?
Okay, it was done in January of this year.
January of this year?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's relatively new. It's not like it's three or 4
Okay.
years ago.
Every employee?
Yes. Every employee that works the register.
There's no chance that the other employees would work the register?
They're under 18, so they would not be
Okay.
allowed to work the register.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Good evening, Nancy. Everyone knows you, but if you could just let us know. who you
Sure.
are. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Slater and council members. I'm Nancy Morrison, the Executive Director of the Troy Community Coalition for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Abuse. I am here this evening to make the alcohol retailers aware that the coalition is here and willing to assist them in preventing sales to minors. I do have an alcohol retailer educational packet for every retailer that is here this evening, and you should have received it electronically as well, so you know the information that I am giving to them. And I will be in the back. If anybody would like to stop and talk with me, I'll give them the packet and my business card. And then just to provide you with an update from last month, I have had several restaurants contact me for some assistance.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I would encourage the 9 businesses that are here this evening to contact the coalition. They're here to help, and they're a great resource for you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this particular item this evening? I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for a resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I'd like to move liquor violation C1A, A&S Babby Incorporated, doing business as John's Party Store. And as the first one, I'm going to read it into the record.
Thank you.
Whereas the City of Troy scheduled a hearing as allowed under state law and the City of Troy ordinances, Chapter 101, and also the liquor license agreement between the licensee and the city to review the following alleged violation. Name A&S Babby Incorporated, doing business as John's Party Store. Address is 4009 Livernois, Troy, Michigan, 48098. License number SDD 12780-2015, SDM 19705-2015. Violation sale to minor compliance test on February 20th, 2015. And whereas, after due notice, the licensee was given the opportunity to review this cited infraction and an opportunity to confront witnesses and/or statements of accusers while in the presence of this city council sitting as a hearing body on Monday, February, we want to change the date to today's date?
Good idea. March 14th?
Yes. Sitting as a hearing body on Monday, March 14th, 2016. Now therefore be it resolved that as a result of this hearing, the Troy City Council has been persuaded that the alleged violation did occur as set forth above. Be it further resolved that due to the violation at the licensed establishment, the Troy City Council, after due notice, appropriate hearing and deliberations, recommends renewal of the off-premises liquor license for the license year beginning May 1st, 2016, with the stipulation that all serving employees successfully complete a server training program as defined under state law, MCL 436.1906, within 90 days of today's date, and that immediately upon completion, licensees shall submit proof of the successful completion of the server training program to the Troy Police Department. Be it further resolved that if the licensee fails to comply with this condition within 120 days, then licensee shall appear before the Troy City Council after due notice, and that the licensee's failure to comply with the server training condition could serve as a basis for the Troy City Council to take adverse action against the licensee's liquor license. Be it finally resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington and supported by Councilman Henderson that we approve C1A, A&S Babby Inc., DBA John's Party Store, as read into the record this evening. Discussion. Councilman Henderson.
Should we clarify the TIPS training? Are we going to accept the previous training, or?
When was the violation again?
The violation was February 20th of 2015. And if council does wish to consider the training that was done in January, then the resolution could be amended to delete the within 90 days of today's date, and that just everything else, that all serving employees successfully completed, so that would be changed, a server training program, and then the rest of it would remain as is.
Councilman Henderson, would you want to amend the resolution to read that language?
Yes.
Support. It's moved by Councilman Henderson and approved by Councilwoman Abraham that we amend the resolution to eliminate within 90 days of today's date from the resolution and accept the training that was performed in January of this year.
With proof, correct.
Everything else in the resolution would stand. Discussion on the amendment. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slider?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. We need to move the resolution now,
The original.
Original.
As amended, right.
as amended. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slider?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Hopefully, we won't see you here again. Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is C1B, Mr. Pizza Inc., DBA Mr. Pizza's Bootleg Party Store. Good evening again, Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you stated, this is Mr. Pizza Bootleg Party Store. Again, this is an off-premise liquor violation, which means that liquor is purchased and intended to be consumed elsewhere off the premise. Today we have representing Mr. Pizza Bootleg Josh West, who is the attorney, and Jimmy Shamami, who is the license holder. This violation took place on February 20th, 2015 with the Directed Patrol Unit officers. In this instance, the minor decoy entered the store, again chose a six-pack of beer, proceeded to the checkout, and was allowed to complete the purchase without having his ID asked for. In this instance, the cashier was Amira Shamami. I believe she is the mother of the license holder, Jimmy Shamami. At the MLCC, it's my understanding that they failed to appear for their MLCC hearing back in June of 2015. The MLCC issued a default judgment and ordered them to pay a fine of $800 or service suspension. It's my understanding that that fine has been paid, but again, we should ask Mr. West on the record to clarify that that $800 was paid. The liquor license history for Mr. Pizza Bootleg goes back to 1985. The current licensee has held the license since 1995. Looking at the history, there are 21 previous violations since 1995. Some of those violations are not necessarily sales to minor. 3 of those are sales to minor violations from February 1996, October 1999, and August of 2011. And my research did show that one sale to minor was actually dismissed by the MLCC in 1999. And when I'm looking at my notes, yes, the fine was paid August of 2015. Again, Mr. West and is the attorney for Mr. Pizza Bootleg, and he's with his licensee, Jimmy Shamami.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council.
Good evening.
My name is Josh West. I'm the attorney for the licensee. The owner is present here on my left side. Just to confirm, yes, the $800 fee was paid in August. We don't have a good reason for why my client didn't appear for that. I think there was some miscommunication with him in appearing, or if one of the relatives was going to appear. But they did accept the default judgment and paid the fine as regards to that issue. In regards to the current violation, unfortunately, and again, my words don't mean to excuse what has happened, but simply to shed light on the incident at hand. The employee was not really an employee. It was my client's mother. She was helping out. It's a family-owned business. She's not a regular employee of the store. And unfortunately, the store was very busy at the time. She wasn't scheduled to be there. She was called in to help out. I believe someone was sick at the time. She stepped up and unfortunately failed to take appropriate action and card the minor in question. Again, no excuse, just to provide some insight. He has taken the matter very seriously. I have talked to the Assistant City Attorney prior to this evening, and I think there's a recommendation for the TIPS program. I think having all the employees, we've talked with them about it. I've appeared before in other councils on these issues. I think the TIPS program is a beneficial program that employees should be required to take. We've also talked about different strategies to take while in the store, signage and proper employee training and employee staff meetings to address the issues. And I think taken as a whole, these remedies will rectify the problem and hopefully correct it, and you won't see us again.
Thank you. I failed to open the public hearing before I asked the Assistant City Attorney, so I'm going to open that public hearing now. Any questions from council for Mr. West? Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
Just out of curiosity, 21 violations since 1999. What were the other, I see 4 of them are the sale to minors. What were the other 17 violations?
I would defer to the Assistant City Attorney. I have not been the attorney that long with my client, so I would defer to her expertise and knowledge with regards to those issues.
Councilmember Pennington, most of them were for non-sufficient funds. Where's my history? There are only 3 or 4 violations related to sales to minor.
Yep.
I just thought it was interesting that they have failed to, when they pay their fines at MLCC, they don't have sufficient funds to cover those fines. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Again, I think that issue is a bookkeeping issue, and certainly I will address that with the client about having appropriate funds to cover checks. We don't want there to be any issues moving forward on that.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Hoderick.
you're talking about the training for employees that include family members that would step in to help out?
Yes,
Yes.
very much so. And again, I'm newer to the file. I haven't been his attorney very long, but in my conversations, at least the last 4 times, we've talked about that and the need for it, and quite frankly, the seriousness of these issues. And I know we'll be taking a packet from Troy Coalition when we walk out. I've advised my client, having heard what she said, to take advantage of any support they offer.
These are our kids,
Absolutely.
and every kid in this community is my child. And I think that's how people working the register have to look at this. And you're the final line of defense. The store owners, the restaurants, parents can educate, we can teach, the coalition can do programs with our children from kindergarten on through. They show up at the register hoping to buy it and be the big kid on campus at a party. It's the final line of defense. It's absolutely critical that we take this seriously as an entire community to protect our kids.
Councilwoman, I couldn't agree more. I, too, am a resident of the city of Troy. I've lived here for 10 years, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, not as just a lawyer, but also as a resident, that needs to be very seriously taken. And I can tell you, in my conversations with him, he is taking the matter very seriously. He does not see this as a light issue and is going to take the appropriate steps.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
So I see the violation was also in February of 2015. Have they all been trained since then? Have they?
They have not gone through the TIPS program. Again, I'm new to the file. I'm going to set that up with them, and they will go through that within the 90-day time period if you allow the license to be renewed.
Our resolution will be very similar to the one that was read into the record, and that would be mandatory TIPS and TAM training within 90 days with proof to the police department.
I will see to it.
Thank you. Any other questions from Mr. West? You know, this is the second this evening where a family member has caused the violation, and typically we look for that employee to be fired as part of what we're looking for here tonight. Of course, we don't expect the father and the mother of the business owner to get fired, but it's disappointing to me, and I'm sure to other council members, that a family member would be involved in sales to minors. So having said that, let's hope this never happens again. Thank you.
Mayor? Just one thing
City
before
Attorney
a resolution is made, I did also note that this one should be changed to March 14th, 2016 as well. Both of those are postponed items from the last time.
Understood.
If I may address that point, my client was out of town.
If you could use the microphone, Mr. West, we are recording this. Thank you.
I should know better, having gone to court. I thank the council for adjourning this. My client was out of town. His brother came, who's not a licensee, and you were kind enough to adjourn. I thank you for that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move the resolution for Mr. Pizza Inc., doing business as Mr. Pizza Bootleg Party Store, as printed with the date change.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, moved by Councilman Henderson, approved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, that we approve C1B as printed in the agenda with the correction of the date to March 14th, 2016. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is C1C. Dahamegha Inc., DBA Paya. I would once again call on Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne, and I will open this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Slater.
Good evening.
Yes, I believe this is Priya. This involves an alleged sale to minor on February 25th, 2015. The Director Patrol Unit officers were conducting their compliance check. The minor decoy entered Priya and ordered a bottle of beer while seated at a table. The server, when the order was placed, did not ask the decoy his age, nor did she ask to see any identification. The server in this case was, I believe, again, I believe it's a relative of the license holder, Ravi Mandava. We may have to clarify that with the attorney of record here, Kelly Allen, but Ravi Mandava is here as well. He's the license holder. It's my understanding at the MLCC, Ravi Mandava appeared on his own behalf, waived the hearing, and signed a plea of acknowledgement and was ordered to pay a fine of $500. Priya has been licensed at a licensed liquor establishment here in the city of Troy since August of 2006, and this is their second violation. August 6th of 2008. This is their second violation. Their last one was in the same year that they received their liquor license, 2008. Again, Kelly Allen is the attorney representing Priya, and she has with her Ravi Mandava, who is the license holder.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Kelly Allen, appearing on behalf of the licensee tonight, and with me is Ravi Mandava. He is the licensee. Just a note on the date of licensure. This establishment, Priya, was formerly owned by Ravi's uncle, and they transferred the stock in 2009, so you're showing a 2006 violation on your record that doesn't show on Liquor Control's record because the ownership changed in whole. It was a stock transfer, but still it changed. So under Ravi's watch, as opposed to his uncle, he has had no previous violations whatsoever. He has had 3 controlled bypasses, compliance tests with the City of Troy. and it is likely that he had some before that, because it seems to me that the city started notifying the Liquor Commission in about 2010. I could be wrong on that. And in looking at some of the older records, it appears that the city, I know, comes in at least twice or 3 times a year to all of your licensees. So again, this was his wife, Robbie's wife, that made the sale. Really tough to fire your wife. However, she was very apologetic about it, and she indicated that, she just had a lapse. They've never had this kind of a problem before. They are having all of their people trained. They have not gone through a CHIPS training program, and they were licensed at a time in the state of Michigan when it was not required. So I am certain that your resolution, should you decide to renew their license tonight, will require that training, and Robbie will get right on that and make sure all the employees are trained in CHIPS. Also, Robbie will get in touch with the coalition and reach out to them and see if there's any information that they can provide to help him. I do have several documents that I use for our client base, contracts and that I'm providing to him to have his employees sign. I really hope you don't ever see Mr. Mandava here again, and I don't think you will.
Thank you. Questions from council? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilwoman Abraham?
I'll move agenda item C1C as printed.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Abraham, supported by Councilman Campbell, that we approve C1C as printed in the agenda. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck this evening. And just to be aware, the resolution does require TIPS and TAM training within 90 days and a report to the police department. Thank you. Next on the agenda is C1D, JJWM LLC, better known as Cafe Sushi. I will open that public hearing and call upon Assistant City Attorney Julie Dufresne. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Slater. This alleged violation took place on November 17th, 2015. Again, with the Directed Patrol Units of the Troy Police Department, they were conducting their compliance checks. What I found interesting about this particular case was the minor decoy entered the restaurant by himself or by herself and sat at a table and ordered 2 bottles of beer from a waitress. Then she was again by herself. And the waitress then proceeded to serve the decoy 2 bottles of beer without asking for any identification or asking the minor decoy about her age. Again, this Cafe Sushi is represented by Kelly Allen. It's my understanding, in speaking with the licensee shortly before this meeting began, they're in the process of doing a stock transfer. So I've asked Kelly Allen to address that with council. I don't have a copy of the MLCC order in this case, but according to the LARA website, the licensee acknowledged the violation and they were ordered to pay a fine of $600. The order was entered January 25th of this year. Again, we'll have to confirm with Ms. Allen whether that $600 fine was paid. My records show that this Cafe Sushi has been licensed here in Troy since 2002. This is their 3rd violation. They had a violation in March of 2005 and in October of 2008. Again, I would call upon Kelly Allen, and she has with her, it's my understanding, the person who is in the process of obtaining the license, Wang Shen Zhu, Z-H-O-U.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Again, Kelly Allen appearing on behalf of Cafe Sushi. And with me and to my right is Wensheng Zhu, and this is John Wu. If I have any language issues, he's here to help.
Thank you.
With regard to the stock transfer, Mr. Zhu is remaining as an owner. We are transferring some of the stock ownership in the company, but he is an owner now and will be an owner at the end of the day. So there won't be a wholesale change in ownership. I have reviewed the report put together by the city. They have had 21 compliance tests in the years that they have been here in the city. And this is their third violation, which isn't batting 1,000 for sure. But considering that they've been here for that long and that they've had that many compliance tests, it's not an awful record. I do note that they have been ordered twice by the city council in the past to have their staff trained, and that the training was completed and submitted. They have just had their two of their owners trained, the stockholders, Mr. Zhu, and you're going to have to say that one for me.
So Wei Chang Ying.
Right. WEIQIANGUYU, also trained. These are both shareholders of the company. They both work there full-time. They were trained on, or their cards were actually issued in late August of 2015. And they have some others that have been trained with older cards, but these are the most recent ones that they have done. And we weren't required by liquor control to do that. That was just done in advance, actually, of this violation incident. Again, the fact that the waitress brought 2 bottles of beer is a bit disturbing. Knowing that there's one person sitting there, I can't tell, and I did not have an opportunity to read the violation report by the commission, or the city rather, as to whether or not there was any conversation between the wait staff member and the decoy. But I guess it's irrelevant. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there was no request for identification and the sale was made. There are 8 employees, and again, these 2 are trained. They have no problem training the rest of their employees if that's what the city wants to do with regard to having that a condition of renewal. And again, this is our client, so we actually, I've worked with them and the previous client since they opened. So they know very well the severity of this kind of claim, and they know all about what happens if you get 3 of these in a 24-month period. And they certainly don't want to cause any threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the city of Troy or any of their patrons. So they'll be much more careful from here on out.
Thank you. Did they pay the fine?
Yes. Sorry, yes.
Can you tell me what happened to the employee that served the alcohol?
They got already fired.
Fired? Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Well, we would want to make sure that all food and beverage employees are trained in the tips and TAMs training as quickly as, as soon as the sale is complete, obviously.
Unless the resolution changes, it will be required within 90 days that all employees will receive tips and TAM training.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Hoderick.
The last hearing, we had a restaurant that shared with us an example of a one-page form that new employees must sign upon hiring, even before training, that says if this happens, they're instantly fired. They know it. They know it from before they serve their first patron. I would suggest, I think the Troy Community Coalition probably has an example of that. If I owned a restaurant that served alcohol and I was hiring the turnover of staff that you experience, tips training is great, but it needs to be reinforced over and over and over again. And the severity to your restaurant and to the community needs to be emphasized each time someone is hired. Serving alcohol is a huge responsibility, and it comes with that requirement that one time they're gone. So going above and beyond what we're requiring, I guess, lives could be at stake. This is serious. So they don't always understand that, especially if they're young servers. And I think signing a one-page document like that hits them right between the eyes, and I would encourage that.
We do use that document that you're speaking of, and I will make sure that they circulate that through their employee base.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item this evening? Thank you. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I will move C1D, JJWM LLC, doing business as Cafe Sushi as printed.
Support.
We're going to accept the 2 that have been trained already. Do we have to specify that in the resolution City Attorney Bloom.
Mayor, the training was actually before this violation occurred, so I leave it to the discretion of council whether or not you want to have them retrained within 90 days, which is what the current proposed resolution calls for.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, let's leave it.
Any further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
Yes.
Mayor Slater.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Just to clarify, all employees are required to go through TIPS and TAMS training again, even those that have a card, and to produce that to the police department within 90 days. Thank you. Next on the agenda is C1E, California Pizza Chicken, Inc., doing business as California Pizza Kitchen. I will open that public hearing and call upon Assistant City Attorney Dufresne. Good evening again.
Thank you, Mayor Slater. The alleged violation with respect to California Pizza Kitchen occurred on February 25th of 2015. Again, the Director Patrol Unit of the Troy Police Department were conducting compliance checks on that date. In this instance, the minor decoy entered California Pizza Kitchen and sat at the bar where the minor decoy ordered a draft beer from the bartender. The bartender did not ask for any identification nor inquire about the decoy's age. The bartender in this case, I believe his name was Kyle, and I'm going to have to spell it. It's Deschaepmeester. And the manager on duty that day was Mike Howell, who is present this evening. At the MLCC, California Pizza Kitchen did acknowledge the violation, and they negotiated a settlement with the MLCC of a $500 fine. California Pizza Kitchen has been licensed here in Troy since 1996, and by my review of the record, this is their third violation, with their first violation in May of '98 and December of 2007. As I mentioned, the manager of California Pizza Kitchen, Mike Howell, is here, along with the regional manager, Mike Kull. That's Mike, Kull.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. At California Pizza Kitchen, we take our alcohol service very seriously, and as a national chain, of course, we make sure that our employees are well trained in not only usually state standards, but also the standards of all states, because you can never be too careful and too well trained to make sure these things don't happen. We do have the individual contract for each individual employee that goes through the training. They sign off on that, and it is witnessed, and it's with their employee number and everything else, so they know that it's, in essence, I don't know how binding, but it's a serious matter that we take with each employee. With this infraction, the employee was terminated immediately. We then brought in our regional trainers that train all of our new store openings, retrained the staff and the trainers here in our Somerset location. We then put them through our, unfortunately, only our in-house alcohol awareness program, which is the RSOA program that is delineated by ServSafe, the National Food Service Organization. Excuse me. So that usually applies to most states. There are some other states that require tips, and we're more than happy to comply with the tips requirement. Some of our servers and managers now are already currently certified with tips, as I am. So we understand the severity and what this means to the community. Obviously, we've been here for quite a while, and we plan to be here quite a while longer. And we serve, quite a few guests, throughout the year, well over 100,000 every year with no infraction. So we take it very seriously, and we don't plan on being here ever again, as pleasant as you may be, but that's where we are in this matter, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Councilman Campbell.
I don't really have a question, but of all the people who have been up here so far, yours are a little bit more discerning than other ones. So you've got thousands of kids wandering around that mall. A lot of them certainly don't look like they're 17 or 18. Most of them look like they're 24 or 25. But that's, I don't know how this happened, but you're in a location where you are going to be barraged by this kind of stuff. So that's why I think it's very important that you guys do whatever you got to do, tips training and whatever else, to make sure these kids are not served in that mall.
I couldn't agree with you more, Councilman Campbell. Our locations throughout Michigan are all in malls, and we take it very seriously because it's exactly as you say. Many young children coming in, and there are children, until a certain point. I have 4 daughters myself through age 25, and I know what's involved and what they can get involved in. So we take this very seriously. Mike has children of the same age. We train our staff religiously. Unfortunately, now and then someone feels it's okay to do something, and we don't tolerate that at all. So
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Thank you.
Thank you.
I should note, I keep saying tips and tram training, but our resolution does indicate that it says complete a server training program, because there are other programs out there today other than tips and TAM. So we're not specifying tips and TAM.
Okay. But whichever please, council, we're happy to comply with.
If you have a program, server training program, that would be okay with us.
And I'm more than happy to show the police department what we go through to make sure it satisfies their...
We are going to require probably that you retrain everyone within 90 days, though.
Okay. I mean, we're happy to do that. We did it immediately after the infraction, which unfortunately was in 2015, but we're more than happy to do it again, whichever.
So a sign-off sheet with the enclosed documents is provided to the Troy Police Department within 90 days would be sufficient?
City Attorney Bloom, that's pretty much how it's handled.
Yes, they will want to evaluate the program, and Mr. Oberski is the liaison, so he would be the person that you would primarily get that information to, and then you'd have to show that all of the employees had completed that.
Sure. Thank you. Be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on this item this evening? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I will close this public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move C1E as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson and supported by Councilman Baker that we approve C1E as printed in the agenda. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Next on the agenda is C1F, Babylon Restaurant Group, Inc., DBA The Melting Pot. I will open that public hearing. Call upon Assistant City Attorney Dufresne.
Good evening, Mayor Slater, members of council. This alleged violation, sale to a minor, took place on February 20th of 2015. Again, the Troy police officers, under the direction of Sergeant Gobler, the Directed Patrol Unit, were conducting their compliance checks. In this case, the minor decoy entered the restaurant and sat at the bar, where the decoy ordered a mixed drink from the bartender. The bartender did not ask to see identification or inquire about the decoy's age. With respect to the disposition at the MLCC, it's my understanding that the Melting Pot, they waived their right to a hearing, entered a plea of acknowledgement, and negotiated a penalty of $600. My information is that the Melting Pot has been licensed here in the city of Troy since July of 2004, and they have one prior violation from December of 2011. They're represented today by counsel Stephen Taylor, and with him today, I believe, is the manager, Aaron Vandermark.
Thank you. Good evening.
My name is Stephen M. Taylor, representing Babylon Restaurant Group, Inc., which is the Melting Pot, the restaurant. Mr. Vandermark is here to my left. If you please, as soon as the violation happened, what we did is we initiated the TAMS procedure, basically the training. In addition to that, I called out the members of the staff together on a Sunday afternoon, and we had a long conference, a talk about this whole thing, and I wanted to advise them about what they needed to do, and also that it's illegal crime, and they have to know that kind of thing. And so I made it very clear to them. I also had them sign forms basically specifying that. So we've gone through that in addition to the TAMS program. We do not dispute any of the facts. The facts are the facts. And we want to make sure that this does not happen again. So, as I've said, we've already gone through the Tips for TAMS program. I understand that looking at your resolution here, you asked that within 90 days that there be additional Tips for TAMS program or whatever training there may be. Tips for TAMS is something we've already gone through. We probably end up doing the same thing. I have had an opportunity to speak to the Assistant City Attorney in this matter and would request that you adopt the resolution that you have printed here so that we can complete this within the 90-day period as requested.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Councilman Baker?
What happened with the employee that served the drink?
He still works there, and he's paranoid, as a matter of fact. I mean, he won't do anything at all, but we do have him working there.
Is that the restaurant's standard procedure? I mean, most
No.
restaurants in the area have a zero tolerance
No,
policy.
it-
In fact,
it-
everyone we've dealt with tonight and 2 weeks ago had the employee was fired unless it was a
I
family
understand
member.
that. This is an exception. I understand that. First time around, the employee was fired immediately. This time around, he was not. He was giving additional training, and he, as I said, he is, to say the very least, very, very careful. We want to make sure about that. So he does work there, and I want to make sure that you understand that, and I don't, you asked the question, so I want to make sure I want to be truthful to you.
I have to add, it's been
If you could come to the microphone, please.
Sure, apologize. I have to add, it's been it was one of the better moves that I've made just because of how paranoid he is and protective of the restaurant that he is now, understanding the process, what we've had to go through with the MLCC, the lawyers, him personally going to court, which Stephen represented as well. I don't have a better ambassador for this program than he is now. So I understand. But this was the best second shot I've ever given to anybody in regards to protecting my entity and not serving alcohol to minors. So I had to share that with you.
I appreciate that. Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, obviously, we can't require you to do anything with an employee, right? And a good bartender is hard to find sometimes, so I understand that.
He's a better person than bartender, and that's why I trusted the forward progress, if you will.
Right. I guess the only question there is, what sort of precedent does it set for other employees? Well, this guy didn't get, fired for this.
They're seeing,
relax or...
Really good point, Councilman. Again, he's a great ambassador for what not to do. Him still being there, we're not turning through employees now like we have in the past, thank goodness. So the majority of our servers are tip certified. Requirement coming in is they do sign the policy. They have to get tip certified to serve our guests, period. Again, him having gone through it and seeing what we're going through now, he's a benefit. Completely understand what you're saying. So no, there's no, well, he did it and so you can. By the way, it's zero tolerance. It's all in the documents. He's explained it to the entire staff, and they're full aware coming in what the consequences are, which is you're done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'll move C1F as printed.
Support.
By Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, that we approve C1F as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion. Councilman Baker.
I just want to say, and I don't mean to pick on this one employee, I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, but I will say he's a bartender, which this should be his primary focus, not just a server in the restaurant. And it was 4:30 in the afternoon, not a considerably busy time. I hope that it's a zero tolerance policy for him and everybody else in the restaurant moving forward, because it would be really embarrassing for you to come back, especially if it was this guy, and it would be a real shame for the restaurant.
Good point. Further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations and good luck. Next on the agenda is C1G, Manjin Lao, Inc., DBA Manjin Lao. I will open that public hearing. Call upon Assistant City Attorney Dufresne. Good evening.
Members of council. Moonjin Lao's alleged violation for sale to a minor took place on February 25th of 2015. The officers of the Directed Patrol Unit were conducting their compliance checks. The minor decoy entered the restaurant and sat at a table in the dining room and ordered a draft beer from the server. The server's name is Mi-A Fox, F-A-W-K-S. She did not seek to look at the minor decoy's identification, nor did she inquire about the decoy's age before she served the beer to the decoy. It's my understanding that the server has not been terminated. Moonjin Lao is represented this evening by John Henke, Attorney John Henke, and the licensee holder is Brandon Chin, and he is here as well, so they can address that issue with this body. At the MLCC, it's my understanding that Moonjin Lao did waive the right to their hearing, entered a plea of acknowledgement, and negotiated a settlement of paying a fine of $650. Moonjin Lao has been licensed here in Troy since 1978. They've had 5 prior violations involving sales to minor, with their last one being in 2005. In your packets, you were provided some information related to some previous issues that the city had with Moonjin Lao. Those more recent issues related to overcrowding issues. Some of you may recall that a few years ago we entered into an agreement with Moonjin Lao to address those issues. They were required to hire security. They had a contract with a neighboring business to handle overcrowding with parking. I've spoken to Lieutenant Perry of the fire department, and I've asked her if there have been any issues with Moonjin Lao related to overcrowding issues, and she advises me that there have not been any recent issues related to that. So I'm happy to report that on behalf of Moonjin Lao. And Mr. Henke will also explain to you that Moonjin Lao was not asking for the same amount of special permits that they used to ask for in the past. So this issue obviously is a little different. It's a sale to minor violation, and as I mentioned, their last one before this one was 2005. And I will ask Mr. Henke and Brandon Chin to come forward.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Slater, members of the council. Mr. Frayne is correct. This was frankly a shock to me as well as it was to Moonjin Lao. It was a very momentary lapse of an employee who has been with them for 23 years on a Tuesday afternoon. So it was not the typical situation. If it were not for the fact that Ms. Fox, as you've probably seen in the report, was visibly upset when she was confronted with this, she immediately went to try and get TIPS and TAMS training again and was told to come back when her renewal is up, which is in April or May of this year. So we have complied with respect to, or will comply with, additional TIPS training with respect to that. As many of the members of the council know, the incidences which gave rise to the 2013 appearance by myself as well as Mr. Chin with respect to the Shanghai Wednesdays has been completely taken care of. Has not been an incident ever again. We don't expect it to be. I will correct Mr. Frayne, we've actually been licensed in the city since 1969. The Chins have been an important part of Troy since that time, and obviously would continue to be a very good corporate citizen in that regard. If you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from council? Moonjin Lao has been a great partner of the city. I was very happy when we signed that contract and that contract was carried out. Everything looked good, but it is disappointing to see Moonjin Lao back here again this evening. But I do look at them as 2 separate items myself. And it's good to see that we've taken care of the one problem. It's disappointing to hear that someone with 23 years of experience would serve a minor.
Yeah, this poor woman was mortified, Mayor Slater. I think the incident was at 4:45, and my cell phone, I think, rang at about 4:51. As you know, you've known me for years. I've known the Chins for years. This is not a typical incident out of this establishment, ever.
So it's safe to assume she didn't get fired?
She did not. Unfortunately, it's tough to take a 23-year employee and for a momentary lapse. And I won't ever suspect, knowing her as I think I've known her as that period of time as well. I can't ever suspect that there will be an incident where she doesn't card somebody who's 50, let alone looks 20.
Let's hope so. Any other questions from council? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
I will move C1G Manjin-Lao as printed.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we approve C1G as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Hopefully you understand that everyone has to get trained. Thank you.
We have everyone trained years later. It's the 3-year renewals, so when they come up, but we can provide those all city.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is C1H, Somerset Inn Limited Partnership, DBA Somerset Inn. I will open that public hearing, call upon Assistant City Attorney Dufresne. Two more. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Slater. Yeah, I know I talk fast. I guess I've been talking really fast.
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah, so let's not jinx us. So this is Crumpets. For those of you who are not familiar, this is the location at Somerset Inn that is known as Crumpets Restaurant. Their alleged violation took place on February 25th of last year. The Troy police officers, Directed Patrol Unit, were conducting their compliance checks. The minor decoy entered the restaurant and ordered a mixed drink from a waiter. The waiter served the mixed drink without asking for identification or asking for the minor's age. It's my understanding at the MLCC, the Somerset Inn Limited Partnership waived their right to hearing, entered a plea of acknowledgement, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $500. Looking at the liquor license history, the restaurant has had prior violations in 1991 and 1994, but there must have been some sort of transfer or change of license holder, because the Lara history that I looked up this afternoon actually begins in 2001, and from 2001 forward they've had no prior violations as Somerset Inn Limited Partnership. This evening, Dwayne Swanson is here on behalf of Somerset Inn Limited Partnership.
Thank you. Is that when you took over, Dwayne?
I took over in '87.
I know that.
So, for a couple of different ownership groups, Mayor Slater and council people. We made a mistake a year ago. It was embarrassing. I do have a tips trainer on staff. All of my staff is always trained continuously. And again, I apologize. It won't happen again.
Thank you. Has the employee been fired?
Pardon me?
Has the employee been fired?
Unfortunately, he was a 20-year employee plus, and I took that into consideration. I had never had any issues with him before. Again, as the others have been, he was mortified. And he's, again, a very good ambassador for making sure that that never happens again in our restaurant.
Questions from council? Councilman Henderson.
I don't want to beat up the point, but no violation since '94 is a pretty good record. So,
thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilman Henderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Dwayne.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close that public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Oh, Councilwoman Abraham.
I'll move Resolution C1H, Somerset Inn Limited Partnership, doing business as Somerset Inn.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Abraham and supported by Councilman Henderson that we approve C1H as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. As in the past resolutions, 90 days, if you could provide proof of training to the police department.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is C1I, Target Corporation, DBA Target. I will open that public hearing. Call upon Assistant City Attorney Dufresne.
Thank
Good
you,
eve-
Mayor Slater.
Good evening.
Members of council, I know that Mr. Carlin, who is representing Target, and the manager, Chris Wiggins, are very happy because I warned them that they may actually get bumped into the regular meeting. So this alleged violation took place on February 25th of last year. Again, the Troy police officers, the Directed Patrol Unit, were conducting their compliance checks. The minor decoy in this instance entered the store, chose a six-pack of beer, and proceeded to the checkout counter. And what's interesting about this case is the cashier did actually ask the decoy for the minor decoy's birth date. And the decoy responded truthfully with the year, his birth year of 1996, which at the time would have made him only 18 years old. When the cashier allegedly punched in the 1996, it flashed red on the cash register, and which indicates that the sale should not have been completed. At that point, the cashier responded by advising the decoy that she'd let him buy the beer this time, but next time he should say 1992. It's my understanding that that cashier in this instance has been let go, but I would ask council to confirm that with Mr. Carlin. With respect to what happened at the MLCC, it's my understanding that the Target Corporation did waive their right to a hearing. They entered a plea of acknowledgement, and they were ordered to pay a fine of $500. Again, this is an SDM licensee, which means that they are licensed to sell alcohol with the intent that the alcohol is not served, it's consumed off the premises. This particular store has been licensed in the city of Troy since 2007, and my review of the liquor license history is that this is their first violation. So Mr. Carlin and again the store manager Chris Wiggins are here on behalf of Target.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Carlin.
Thank you very much, and yes, indeed, we're glad that we were able to get this done within the required time. It's almost strange that Target would be here tonight. The general manager is here, come on up. Chris Wiggins has been there for, I think, what, 7 years?
I started at Troy in late October, Target, in an exempt level position since 2008.
It's really surprised that they did, especially that night, the way this happened, where the woman asked for or the person asked for the proof and was given it, and it didn't work for some reason, obviously, and then she went ahead and did it anyway. But I can assure you she was hustled out of there that night. They were very upset about it. They've got 58 stores in Michigan, and they have had very few violations. This is the first one at this location, and it's just something that should never have happened. They have their own training program that they do in the place. Every single employee of all employees, the entire store, is required to go through it. They will do it again if you require that. They've got about 40 people that run the cash registers, some part-time and then some full-time. But it's up to you. It's something that they regret very much. We can retrain them with our own program without a problem. And we apologize for even having to be here. Have any questions?
Questions from council? Councilman Henderson?
The reading to the incident, it seems as though maybe she didn't even ask for the ID, that she just punched the date in. What's your policy
So the register is always going to prompt for them to ask for ID anytime that someone brings alcohol through the point of sale system. So, and at that time, they should physically check the ID. If there's any kind of a dispute or anything like that, with the ID or with the age, a manager should be called over at that point, and it should be addressed. That's why of all the stories that I heard here tonight, this one's probably the most embarrassing because we were given a false birth date and then changed the birth date for that customer. So very, very embarrassing. But I can assure you that we have training programs for every single cashier, sales floor team member that is employed with that building, and then our registers are hard locked to have those preventative measures in there as well, and that cashier did bypass those, and as a result was terminated that night.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington.
Yeah, you're correct. This was the most troubling. I've only been doing this for 3 years, but this was the most troubling one I've ever read in the time that we've been doing this. She obviously bypassed. How long had this employee worked with Target?
She was actually.
Could you talk into the microphone, please? Yes,
she was actually still under her 90-day probationary period. I was not running the store at that time, so I'm not 100% sure, but she was under 90 days.
Okay. Well, you're lucky that no tragedies happened because she was obviously waving people through, on her own discretion. So it's, it's good that you let her go that night, but we're going to require that you retrain everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Other questions from council? I think it's great when a business puts in safeguards for themselves where you have to check ID and things like that. I think it's a little upsetting that you spend all that money, you do all that, and the cashier can still override that. Isn't there something that you can do where a cashier cannot override something like that? It seems like it should require a manager to do that instead of them being able to do it themselves. Can you correct that?
It would be something that would have to be sent up through our corporate headquarters. Honestly, all of our stores operate on the same POS, point of sale system, but it's something that I can definitely send upstream.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I will close the... Oops. I'm sorry. Coming forward. I'm sorry. I looked down and...
So I'm Amy Crawford. I'm the HR business partner supporting the Troy store and 21 other stores in the area. So just wanted to clarify for your question too. So the POS system is set up. Best practice is that they should swipe the ID, and the keying option is only there if the ID is bent or broken and won't swipe. And if they do change it, best practice is they should wave over the front end manager. So this employee, I was around for this, and when she gave her reasoning, it was really a lapse in judgment is what she called it. And she was terminated that night. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item this evening? Okay, now seeing none, I will close that public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilwoman Hoderick.
I will move C1I as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Hoderick and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington that we approve C1I as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes, motion passes. Good luck. We will be looking for certification training within 90 days to the police department. Thank you. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. Next on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak before council this evening? Seeing none, we are adjourned. We'll see you in 10 minutes for our regular meeting.